AP Biology, Chapter 20. This is our third and final video for this chapter. What we're going to be focusing on this chapter is the balance between the organism and its organ systems to the external environment. And so this is kind of the start of learning all of the body systems. We've previously talked about the tissues that make up a body, the organs, and then we've touched on the organ systems, but now we're going to focus on how does that function in conjunction with the external environment. So one of the big things that we have to realize is that an organism is in constant communication with the internal or external environment. We have to exchange materials like oxygen and nutrients, carbon dioxide and any other waste that we may produce, molecules. All of this has to happen not only from the environment into the body, but from within the body to the specific cells that are using that. In a small, simple animal, each cell has enough area to kind of just do direct diffusion, active transport, cell to cell. But when we have a large organism, what we have to recognize is that this is not possible. So here's an example of one of the early evolutionary animals. Right here you can see that this hydra has kind of a mouth area. It allows, if you look down through the mouth, what you'll see is it's just a couple cell layers thick, and we can just rely on simple diffusion. So any nutrients that are in this cell will diffuse into our purple cells, and from there they will diffuse into the white cells. The white cell produces waste. It can simply diffuse it to the outside environment. This is not necessarily possible when you get to larger, more complex animals. Why? Because we actually have less surface area to our volume as a ratio. And so we're actually going to rely on specialized surfaces to allow for that exchange to happen in the direct rate that we need it to occur. And so one of the things that we have is that we have interstitial fluid. And that means that the inside of our cells are actually liquid, which allows for diffusion to occur. And the other thing we have is we have a lot of branching and folding. And by doing that, what we're doing is we're increasing the surface area of things that are in communication with the external environment. Things like our lungs, our intestines, and our kidney. So if we were to look at the external environment and the cells of a basic organism, what you're going to see here is we're going to look at kind of what's going on. So food comes into the mouth of an organism. It goes through the digestive system. We're absorbing all of the nutrients. The nutrients are being absorbed in the intestine, but they're being delivered from the intestine into the circulatory system. The circulatory system is pumped around the body using the heart, and it is also pumping or getting nutrients, in this case oxygen, from the external environment, and is getting rid of the waste of carbon dioxide. The blood is also going to be delivering it to body cells by using the interstitial fluid, the liquid that allows for diffusion to occur. And then what we're doing is through the circulatory system, we're creating some waste and it's going to leave the body. This is a picture of what your blood vessels in your lungs look like. And they're massive and extensive, and it's because we're relying on those blood vessels to take in the oxygen and to deliver the carbon dioxide to the structures in the lungs that get rid of the carbon dioxide and that take in the oxygen. You can actually see the blood vessels back here. This is what actually connects the lungs to your heart. Now, one of the things about what animals are doing is they're maintaining homeostasis. We're regulating our internal environment. Now, this achievement of homeostasis is only possible with all of our body systems operating at full function. And so here's an example of a snow dove. It's chilling in the snow, it's freezing cold, but what it's going to do is it actually can maintain an internal or steady internal temperature because it's going to use things like insulation, fluffing its feathers, gathering of fat around certain organs. All of those things allow for it to maintain a stable internal environment or temperature regardless of what external temperature is. So it's not really possible. Instead, we have these small, tiny changes of temperature inside, whereas the outside may have huge fluctuations. What homeostasis relies on is a process called feedback. Negative feedback is where we're going to trigger some sort of reaction in the body that we're reversing the change that happened. So if we go up, homeostasis or negative feedback would make us go back down. If we go down, negative feedback makes us go back up. And this is what allows for those small, tiny changes to happen but maintain homeostasis. In us, or in most animals, the control center for homeostasis is the brain. So here's some examples of what happens with our body temperature changes. So our internal body temperature is about 36 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. What happens if your body temperature rises above what's normal is there's a thermostat in your brain that says, oh, hey, we're getting really hot. And it's going to trigger a response in our body where our blood vessels will dilate and our sweat glands will start sweating, so we're going to release water for evaporative cooling. Our temperature goes down, the brain recognizes this, and it tells the reactions to stop, and we go back to homeostasis. If we get really cold, what's going to happen is our temperature falls below normal. The same thermostat says, hey, we need to warm up. The blood vessels will constrict, so we'll lose less heat, and our skeletal muscles will start contracting, causing shivering, which generates heat, and that causes our temperature to increase, and we go back to normal. So this is how we're maintaining homeostasis kind of as a way of regulating. We're going to work our way through every single body system in the body and look at how do they maintain homeostasis, what are their trigger mechanisms overall. We are done for now. The one thing I do want to point out is that the positive feedback mechanism is opposite from negative. It's where we're actually going to get further away from a set point. One of the best examples of positive feedback is adrenaline. When you're aggressive or mad or adrenaline, producing adrenaline actually causes more adrenaline to be produced so that you get more and more of a reaction. Another example of positive feedback is labor contractions. When a woman is in labor, she'll have a contraction. And then her body will say, oh, we should have another one, and you'll have another contraction. And pretty soon the contractions become stronger and faster because of positive feedback. We're trying to push the baby out. We're trying to get away from homeostasis. We're trying to get a reaction. So those are two examples of positive feedback, but mainly we'll be focused on negative feedback as we go through the other videos.